Welcome to the Coffee with Karen podcast, a weekly chat show discussing everything from holistic health to current affairs from a mental, physical and spiritual perspective. Get your weekly cup of positivity with a sprinkling of woo-woo.
Welcome to the first week of A Coffee with Karen. Okay, January the 11th. Now, this is going to be a weekly show every Monday at 2 p.m. That is London time. Okay, so 9 a.m. It might be morning if you're over there in the States. And what is this going to be about? We are going to be covering a variety of topics from current affairs, alternative health. And today's topic is the Great Masturbate. And I really appreciate that this really is causing a lot of divide and there is a lot of fear. And I can completely understand the fear because we are being forced one narrative. And if we're honest with ourselves, there's never just one narrative. So it's not that I'm saying for and against. We are here to discuss from different perspectives, from the mental, the physical, and the spiritual, my little bit of woo-woo, my sprinkling of woo-woo, this topic. And as I said, my sincere hope is that if we can reduce one person's fear, then we've done our job. Okay, so this is going out on Mintwave Radio. So please sign up to the newsletter for the next shows to know who's going to be on the next week's show. And so first of all, I just want to introduce this week's guests. So, Laurie, let's start with you. If you can explain to everybody a little bit about who you are, your background, why you can even give the perspective from the mind, and a little bit about your story.
Absolutely, Karen. First of all, thank you so much for having me be here. And I'm really glad that you're starting this debate to really support people to make empowered decisions that really suit them. So my background is that I've been in mental health for just over 20 years, trained as a psychotherapist and have moved more into coaching and personal development, working with all sorts of people from women leaders in STEM-based industries to now really bringing forward my long history of applying mindfulness. So what is mindfulness? It's about using the breath, which is a tool that we all have to forge that mind-body connection. And in doing that, what you can do is just the most wonderful things. One of the most amazing things you can do with the breath is actually manage anxiety. This is one of the things that everyone is experiencing right now with this whole debate. What's the truth? You know, one person says it's one thing, another person says it's one thing. Ultimately, for me, what this whole situation is doing is having us start to really get connected to what our truth is.
Absolutely, 100%. Because we know, right? We know on a deep level, regardless of what other people are telling us, you'll know your own truth.
Yes.
And it's okay for everybody to have their own truths, right?
We're all unique. So we will all have our own unique perspective on it. And the opportunity, I think, and this is what all of my programs do, is like when you understand and you own your own perspective, you don't necessarily need to have other people sharing your perspective. You can learn from other people and get interested in other people's perspective. You don't have to agree with it, but you also don't have to argue about it. You can just be curious.
Absolutely. And do you think that can be some people's anxiety, is that what they're being fed is not resonating with what they actually truly know, and it's that conflict that is causing them to feel anxiety?
Yeah, it's called cognitive dissonance. And just a little bit about before I started in mental health, I worked for 8 years in the media industry doing PR for technology companies. I know how the media works. I know that most of what the media puts forth as news is actually being fed to them by companies, governments, certain departments, people who have an agenda. There's very little that's in the media that's actual news.
Yeah, I would completely. Well, it doesn't sell, otherwise sometimes it can be very boring. The truth can be, the truth is what it is. And well, that maybe it doesn't sell.
And it also doesn't, and the point, sometimes you're selling an idea as much as you are selling a product. And you want people to actually take on the idea and then behave in a certain way based on this idea, which is kind of what you alluded to. What we are seeing at the moment is this idea being put forward that masks work. Well, I've done my own research on it. There are no definitive research studies that show that masks work.
Okay.
And when you start to compare the numbers of cases in areas where people are forced to wear masks versus not forced to wear masks, there's no real difference.
Right. Yeah, no, I can believe it. I mean, again, I think we were talking about this just before we came on live. I do feel that, I know I, for one, have worn masks, not for me, but more to put somebody else's mind at ease, because there is so much fear, rather than I'm putting the mask on to either protect myself, which is what they're trying to say, or to protect others. That's not the reason that I'm doing it. So how long? So you've been in this industry, what did you say, 25 years?
Yeah, 20 years.
What brought you into it? How did you go this route?
Well, I've always been interested in psychology and healthcare, but decided not to study it at university. In fact, I started as a biomedical engineering major at university and absolutely hated technology. Computers, which ironically, 3 years after graduating, I find myself working in a computer company.
Funny how things go, right?
Yeah, and then working in the media industry, I started to see that actually there's an awful lot of manipulation around in media, advertising, PR, the whole world of it. And at about 1998, I had my own woo-woo spiritual experience in India, and quite profound experience, totally shattered my whole understanding of what reality is.
Wow.
And at that time I thought, this media stuff is useful, but actually I want to do something that actually really makes a difference to people. And I had my own stuff to deal with and to sort out too through that journey, which is always the way. A lot of healers enter into the healing profession because we've got our own stuff to take care of too. Right?
We all have. Everybody's got their own story, right? None of us are perfect.
None of us are perfect. Everyone's had a challenge. Everyone has had, something that hasn't worked in the way they had hoped it would work. And so that's really when I started to make the shift. I also got headhunted and went in-house to work for a Silicon Valley startup. And within 3 months, I'd been made all these promises that, we're going to, you got all these stock options and we're going to be rich. And the next thing you know, the market burst.
Right.
And no one in Europe wanted to touch a Silicon Valley startup with a budget.
Right. Okay.
And it became a very difficult place to be. So I decided, right, now's my time to make the move, get out, train to be a psychotherapist.
And do what you truly want. Fantastic. Yeah. Awesome. So my next guest, my sprinkling of woo-woo, we're going to introduce her as a Karmic psychic. If you can, again, explain a little bit about who you are, what you do, and a little bit about your background, your story.
Well, firstly, hello to both of you, and thank you for having me on here. And basically, I was an accountant. But from a young age, I was always very intuitive. And I had my own personal experiences, which I felt like I was contending with by myself on a spiritual level, and they couldn't be defined. And I felt like I was predicting things for my family. I have a very big family, being from an Indian background. For example, I'd say to my aunt, "Oh, you're pregnant, you're going to have a boy." And she's like, "I am pregnant. How do you know?" And it was from there, from the age of 9, that I felt that I do have a gut instinct pulling me. But it was that versus a very strict family who said you got to go into education. So I became an accountant. At the same time, I was enjoying working, but I had a spiritual call.
Right.
And I felt that that was pushing me more towards giving up my accountancy and pursuing my career in astrology, in tarot reading. I always done that from a young age. I was very interested in that, but actually to stand up and say, this is what I'm doing, it takes a lot. But then I went, I met so many people throughout my journey. I did go to India as well. And I just felt that I was more on a karmic cleansing level. I meet people, hear their stories, but then we are eliminating blockages.
Right.
And that goes back to karmic cycles from your past that you're releasing. You may be holding some energies which are related to your ancestors, which could be affecting the way you live your life today, or the issues that you deal with today. So it's about releasing through, you said you're a psychotherapist, Laurie. So I've done belief clearing. I'm a belief clearing practitioner, which I felt was the right choice for me to help release karmic cycles. It's very hard for me to explain, but it's a technique of, let's say, EFT or hypnotherapy or something. I'm not saying I'm a therapist, but just using some
Tools,
unblocking tools to release some energy that we may be holding, which may not be about just us in this world. It may be related to our past lives.
Right.
So
fantastic. I mean, so you really, what you've just told us there is actually a similar story to Laurie. You've both gone down the route of what we are told maybe that we should be doing for our careers. And then you've had another calling, and then both gone to something that has resonated with you to actually help others.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Now, I wanted to add some twist here. In astrology, in the last 18 months, we had experienced a transit called Rahu and Ketu. And we had experienced this transit the first time with 9/11, conspiracy theories.
Wow.
Now we have re-entered that with this coronavirus. And I was just wondering that what conspiracies, perhaps that, like Laurie said, the media doesn't tell you everything. And there could be a big conspiracy theory here. And that we could be filled with lies right now to wear a mask and to clean our hands. But there are discussions on YouTube from people saying that this is a conspiracy. And this happened with 9/11. And astrologically, I'd like to say that was the same time as now.
I haven't heard that before. Thank you. That's absolutely fascinating. What a link. Brilliant. Well, thank you for being here. So I'm going to cover the physical side of things because my background is fitness. I understand the body. 27 years as a sports therapist. So yes, I'm no doctor. I'm not a virologist, but I do have a certain understanding of how the body works. I then have recently more studied our nutrition and understanding of the body that way. And then, of course, the immune system. And then from a personal experience, I've had alcohol-induced asthma. So respiratory problems, I've been brought up with them, really. I used to get, about 3 sessions of bronchitis every year, sometimes pleurisy. And so maybe I can offer a little bit of insight to for people to not to worry as much, and that there are things that we can do rather than waiting, fearing getting it, fearing almost dying and having to go into hospital. You know, there are things out there that we can do. I'm not talking about a cure. I'm not trying to claim that I can cure COVID, because I can't. But from my point of view, from the physical standpoint, there are lots of things that I just wish they would be talking about, that, you know, we can boost the body's immune system. We can focus on lowering even the inflammation on a cellular level in the body, because what we're seeing with this is, some people have got no symptoms. It may mean that on a cellular level, there is no inflammation. It's not reacting to it. So you're not getting the immune response, because that's what people are struggling with. And so, you know, there are things that are not going to harm. And you know what? If you just take them, they're not expensive. They could put your body in an optimum level, so that if you do come in contact with it, you're just going to, it's just going to go overhead, basically, because that is really what the body is designed to do. But obviously, there are so many people that are worried, because if they've got other medical issues, that there is this, you know, just so much fear involved. So really, this discussion about the mask, we don't want to get too sort of for and against. I know Karmic Psychic wears a mask. I know Laurie does when she goes out. We're not talking about that. I just want to discuss on these different levels and then offer up solutions. So first of all, Laurie, what effect has wearing a mask had on you personally?
In the beginning, I've always sort of, I'll be really straight and honest with you. I've always seen this COVID-19 situation as what someone might call a psyop, or a psychological operation. Now, I know that I'm putting myself out there as a potential conspiracy theorist. So be it, right? But when you look at the figures, 99.95% of people recover from COVID. Does that really warrant wearing a mask? So in the beginning, I was actually quite defiant. But, you know, we were kind of locked down anyway for the most part. So I was a bit like, "Urgh." And then I started to see just how fearful people were. Mm-hmm. And I thought, you know what? You can get into all sorts of stories about, does the mask silence you? Does it, you know, is it effective? Is it a sort of ritualistic thing? You know, there's all sorts of theories out there. For me, I just thought, you know what? Truth is, wearing a mask is meaningless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's the meaning you give it, right?
Completely. And I made the choice that actually, I don't want to upset other people. Mm-hmm. I want to respect that other people are at different places in their journey and in their relationship to this whole thing around COVID. And who am I to tell them that they're wrong? Mm-hmm. They're coming at it from a different perspective. What I don't want to do is to create more anxiety, more angst. Really, what is the point of that? You know, just to defy something that is meaningless in the first place. So I wouldn't walk around on the streets with a mask. But certainly, if I go into a shop, or I go into a restaurant when they were open.
Can you remember that?
Yes. Yes, let me think that. Oh. Yeah, you know, I'll put the mask on. Like,
so then what you're telling me, again, coming from, you know, the mental health coach that you are, you're not wearing the mask for the physical aspect that we're being told we should wear it. You're doing it as a kindness thing to accept that other people, if they're looking at you without a mask and they're feeling anxiety, you want to reduce those feelings, which is, yeah, absolutely.
And from a physical health point of view, what impact stress has on physical health.
Totally. 100%. And I do think people are coming to that conclusion, especially over the last couple of years, where, you know, mental health is being more spoken about in the work environment. We do know, very, very sadly, what, you know, forget the mask, just this whole thing, because of the anxiety levels and very unfortunately suicides. So then, you know, this is something that does need to be spoken about. It isn't just about the physical thing and the concern about the virus and its effect on you. It is also about, you're so right, it's about people's own, how they feel. So what effect has seeing other people wearing a mask had on you?
And it's changed a lot over time. And of course, you know, in the beginning, I found it. I remember looking at my son. I'll share this with you. Looking at my son. Now, where were we? We actually decided we were going to keep our holiday, and we went to Spain over the summer. And he was in the distance, and I saw him with this black mask on, and it looked like there was just a black hole here in his face. And I went, whoa, that's quite freaky.
Disturbing.
It was a little bit disturbing. And then I thought, you know, I could make it mean that, or I could just honor the shock of actually seeing him with his mouth covered with this black piece of fabric and go, okay, that's what it was a shock in the beginning. And I'll be honest, you know, seeing, I don't know if you remember, but when I walked through London, those days leading up to the first lockdown, and it was like a Mad Max film set.
Yeah, very much so.
Very
much so. Very, very much so.
And people already wearing masks by that time. So, but I think it's designed to create that reaction in people.
The
whole,
I do feel that. And have you noticed? So even with your, you know, with your own clients, have you noticed a change in people's mental health relating to the mask? You know, forget the rest of it. Have you noticed any changes?
Do you know what? I think people are actually, and I'm so glad about this, people are starting to question, whereas they didn't question back in March and April.
Which is understandable. I myself, I have to admit, hands up, I was petrified when we first heard this.
No one knew.
Being asthmatic as well, I was just like, oh boy, you know, until I actually turned the telly off.
Well, I tell that to a lot of people, turn it off.
Well, it was my own children, because I'd always told them, news is, you know, don't watch news, it's so negative. They came into me one day because I'd had it on, like, you know, 24/7. So, Mum, you know, you did tell us not to watch the news because it's so negative. And I was quite shocked that they were pointing it out to me. And I was like, oh, yeah. You know, in the beginning, I was like, but, as though, no, but this. And then the moment I turned it off, funnily enough, I felt a lot better. So nothing had happened. Nothing had changed out there. The virus hadn't disappeared. You know, nothing had changed out there. But what had changed was in here. The anxiety was totally lifted. So where is the medical evidence, Laurie? Do you have that mask work? Where is the medical evidence?
Yeah, well, do you know, I was just doing a little bit of research this morning about that. And there are conflicting studies, but here's the one thing that everyone agrees on. There have not been any definitive studies to prove that it works or it doesn't work. And it certainly doesn't work the way people are wearing masks. The only kind of mask that may work, and it's why a doctor or nurse would wear them, are the ones that have a seal around the mouth and the nose. And you see doctors and nurses wearing them in theatre, or, kind of makes sense. You don't want to spread pathogens.
But that's a bit different because, they've got an open wound there. You don't really want to be breathing, because we do breathe out bacteria. So maybe it's got nothing to do with the virus, but it's more to do with breathing out bacteria into an open wound. This is supposedly something completely different, right?
That's right. And I mean, who really washes their mask every day? Some people, the responsible ones might do. But even if you come into contact with someone, if you haven't changed your mask with each person, the chances are you're really everyone that you come into contact with. So
absolutely. And the issue so just from my personal experience of having asthma, I had a mask on, when we were first told to have it on, and it was a cloth one, so I was washing it every day. Yeah. But maybe not totally linked to just wearing the mask, but maybe it was to do with the laundry detergent where I've washed the mask. Wearing it all day, I'd actually had my first proper big asthma attack that I hadn't had one in about 11 years, where I needed a nebulizer. The inhalers weren't working. But the issue is I see people with COPD or asthma and they're still wearing a mask, again, because they feel that they've got to, or they don't want the confrontation.
Yeah.
Because of this divide. So, even from my aspect, from a physical point of view, what I see is, whereas before it was 2 meters distance and they were sort of, allowing that, and the minute they introduced the mask, it's like everything else went out the window, and you'd see people touching things. You think, well, even if you're wearing a mask, but you're touching and other people are touching, and it just makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. So it does seem like it's all to do with this, the mind. It's all to do with putting people's mind at ease. But my hope is that people who can't wear it or are worried about their own health don't feel you have to wear it, and those that feel it's such an important thing, please just have a little bit of compassion.
Yeah.
And they might not want to tell you as to why. It might not be a medical, it might be a bit of a PTSD thing. You don't know what is going on in other people's lives, rather than it does seem to be we're into this judgment. Look, yeah.
And that is all, as we've said before, that is all about fear.
Yes.
Judgment is all about fear. I think one of the things that I've learned from myself, certainly, and one of the things that I try to impart people in the last 10 years is dig for facts. If there are none, or if the facts are kind of wishy-washy or unclear, then you've got to rely on yourself to make the choice about what's right for you.
Absolutely.
One of the things that concerns me, though, is that people are not looking at the source of the information. So they might read something in the Guardian or the Telegraph or the Daily Mail about what the CDC or the WHO says, but they actually don't go to the source document to find out what actually the WHO said. So, and I'll give you an example of this. This week, last week, the WHO started to change all of its information online about herd immunity.
I saw that.
Did you?
It's very easy to edit online, isn't it? And we forget what they said last week.
That's exactly, and that's what they're relying on, is that people don't actually go and look, because we just accept what we're being fed. If there's one thing I could ask for people to start doing in 2021, it's to stop buying everything you read and everything that you hear from mainstream sources, whether it's a podcaster or it's a BBC news report or it's the Guardian or it's the WHO. Stop buying everything and start digging.
Absolutely. And what could you, for anybody out there who is genuinely scared and genuinely gets anxiety if they see somebody, say, without a mask, what would you say to them to help them feel better and not so fearful about it?
The one thing I would say is to recognize that their anxiety is actually potentially contributing to their reduction in immunity, which will compromise their ability, if there is this killer virus out there, will compromise their body's own natural ability to fight it off. So one of the easiest things that they can do is just take a moment to breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth 3 or 4 times, or as many times as they need. What that does is it switches the brain functioning from the parasympathetic nervous system, which is all about, the sympathetic nervous system, which is all about fight or flight, switch that off. And you enter into the sympathetic nervous system, which is about relaxation. And when you are in a state of relaxation, you have access to more of your brain. When you're in fight or flight, all of your thoughts go straight into this analytical thinking. Oh my God, what am I going to do? Am I going to get it now? What's he doing? What should I do at this moment? You need to switch that off, because that will exacerbate the anxiety.
Absolutely. And do you feel that, you talk about the fight or flight, so, you know, from the physical aspect, that's, you know, you're releasing cortisol, stress hormone. Yes. I mean, obviously, years ago, that was a good thing for us, you know, if we're being hunted.
Yeah.
The tiger, we needed to react in the moment. However, that wasn't designed for our body to be in that mode 24/7.
Completely.
So have you seen any change in people's mental health due to just that one thing you're just talking about there, the fight or flight response being switched on pretty much since February? For some, not for all.
For some.
And what that does, that long-term flight system switch, what that does to somebody's mental health.
Well, you start to become obsessive about things, and not just about yourself, but about other people. And this is where it gets into she's not wearing a mask. How dare she? What kind of person is she? You know, and then all of these judgmental conversations start to occur, which then keeps that loop going.
Yeah.
And, you know, people are not sleeping.
Terrible.
And sleep is one of the most important aspects to health, to maintaining both physical, as you know, and mental health. And mental health, right? You have to rest. I just, you know, I think I'm quite lucky in that my life hasn't changed a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But I look at my husband, who hasn't seen his parents since February, and they're in their late 80s. And he's managing it okay, but there's this constant concern about, well, I don't know, and I don't want to put them at risk, and I don't want to upset them. So, you know, and they live on the other side of Manchester. Right. You know, my parents live in the States, so I'm used to not seeing them for long periods of time. That, you know, families are being kept apart because of this
fear.
Yeah.
There's I see 2 types of fear there. So for me, I'm not afraid for me, but, you know, even when I would go and see my dad, I'm not giving him, you know, I want to see him, and I don't feel that I'm putting him at risk staying away, but obviously I'm not giving him a hug, which I want to. And that's not for me. It is for his mental state of mind, but also, obviously, then I would never live with myself if I was the person that, you know, causes, whether I believe this hype or not, there's still this thing in the back of my mind as, but, you know, if something were to happen, I would never. And this, I think, again, for people to be less fearful is, even if you see people without a mask, just keep that 2 meters distance from them. What's happened to this? You know, if they're not wearing a mask, they're not going to give you the virus from 2 meters away. We have sort of got, I think people have got caught up in this whole thought process that you know, they're going to die if somebody's not wearing a mask.
Yeah.
It's just so untrue, so untrue. So I know there's two sides to this equation, and so I would just ask the ones who totally don't believe in it, maybe, just maybe, not wear a mask all day, but if you do go into an enclosed space and you see the little old dear that only is getting her information from one news source, so isn't genuinely fearful, maybe just put it on for 2 minutes, so that she doesn't feel the anxiety. And so there's, I think, both sides to find a little bit of compassion and to see things from the other person's point of view. You don't have to believe that it's stopping anything, but maybe, just maybe, if it's for a short period of time, I don't, you know, as I said, from my own personal experience of wearing it a long time, I truly, from a physical point of view, believe that is negative for your health. It's going to lower your immune system. It is not healthy to be breathing back in your air that you breathe. But for those that are, I don't know, furloughed or stuck at home and only put on a mask when they pop to the local shop, yeah, of course, no problem. No harm done, right? So don't do it for yourself. Do it for the other people that are genuinely suffering with anxiety.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you're being expected to wear it long term, no, think about your own health, because long term, I just, you know, the evidence is there that it is going to, if it only lasts a week, but just remember we've been in this.
Yes, 9 months now, right?
Well, it's even longer, isn't it? I mean, it's just, I can't even remember when it started, but you know, it's getting to we're not far off a year, are we? My daughter's birthday's in February. I know we celebrated her birthday, but that was just before.
Yeah.
So there are both sides. So, Karmic, what would you have? Have you got any insight as to try to put people's minds at ease from the astrological, or even, I know you're a numerologist as well, from even that, you know, what are things telling you from that side of things?
Okay, so my clients, they have had a lot of fear in the last 9 months, which is where the increase in remedies of meditation, breathing, as Laurie said, meditation, yoga, lighting candles at night, incense sticks, as we say, to purify the aura, to cleanse the aura from any black energy, which is the energy, the negative energy that we're carrying as a result of the fear.
Mm-hmm.
So then what I have noted, I mean, I personally wear a mask when I pop down to the shops, purely because, like I said, the fear element that you're discussing, people are afraid, and you can pick that up straight away. So you don't want to aggravate the fear. You want to sort of want to keep everyone calm, and you want to feel calm yourself.
Mm-hmm.
What I've noticed is there's a lot of remedies, natural remedies, people wanting to take because of the fear. What can I do? What can I take in order to not be so afraid? Should I boil some ginger? Shall I drink some hot water with lemon? You know, everybody's trying to find their own secret remedy, you know, that if I drink this and then pop out to the shops, it might make me feel better. So you don't discourage them, because you want their vibrations, their energies to be up so that their immune system is up. You don't want anyone to feel the fear. I feel that when you feed the fear, you lower your immune system, and you're probably most likely to attract it, because I believe in law of attraction as well. So if you are afraid and you say, I'm going to get it, you probably will get it. So the whole idea is to have a positive state of mind in this time. Yoga, meditation, visualization that you are well.
Yes.
You know, empowering, not being a victim, empowering that fear that nothing is going to happen to me, and to have this aura around you that I'm attracting nothing but good. you know, it's just uplifting mindset that can distract you from lowering your immune system, because I believe it's all, at the end of the day, the cases that I have heard of, these were people with underlying health issues. So the importance is to keep your immune system strong, and I always think it comes from here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and the heart, the soul, so you have to work together. I feel that another way for us to not be so afraid is to talk about it, which we're doing today. Because I feel when you're in isolation, your mind can wander, and you can feel alone, that nobody else is going through this panic, this anxiety. When you talk about things together, you just make yourself feel that, hey, you know, I'm not alone. Because that
Definitely.
anxiety gets worse when you're alone.
Of course it does, because we create bigger stories,
Yeah.
bigger and worse stories. And I would add,
and numerology wise, sorry to interrupt you, Karen. I was going to say that for this year, number 2021 is to do with the number 5. Number 5 rules the body part, the lungs. And
wow.
Right. And this year is about the color green. It's about communication. It's about revealing the truth. This year, from April to September, Jupiter enters, in Vedic astrology, enters the 11th house of healing and empowerment. So between April and September this year, I feel that we're all going to be a bit more enlightened. We're going to see the light. Last year was number 4, and it was not a good period, obviously. Number 4 is to do with the home, to do with mother's health and our emotions. And I think that we all got affected clearly up here, and with the mind. And this year is about expression, clarity, communication, traveling. So I feel that this year we'll be free from this entrapped nature that we've had from April. That's my prediction. From April.
That is incredible. Who knew that?
Yeah. No, but the thing is, in India, I wanted to tell you that there's every country other than the UK, what do they say about coronavirus? Where, they're all suddenly going more towards the healing, the natural remedies. Everyone's saying, what can we take? And I wanted to bring that up today, because I wanted to know that, is this a safety net that we're holding on to get us through the darkness? That let's, for example, have a ginger and garlic, even garlic, hot tea in the morning to boost our immune system. Are we suddenly we're having this mindset that we need to adopt more natural remedies to fight the disease? What?
I do hope so.
Like you said about physical health, people like you are helping people who have stopped doing that, because of the lockdown, and their mental health has gone down so much.
There you go. It all links. So it's the mind, the body, and the spirit. We've got to find a way to balance out all these areas. Whether you believe in this spiritual stuff or not, it's irrelevant, because do you know what? It's there, whether you believe it or not.
It is.
It is what it is. But whatever is true for you, and it's all about how just what you resonate with, you will know in yourself. So, I truly believe that people will know the truth within themselves. And, and yes, I do hope that people will look at, rather than, you see, the way I see, I'm not anti Western medicine, right, in any way, shape or form, or hospitals or any of that. The NHS, please don't, that's not what I'm saying. If I'm in a car accident, my God, get me to that hospital right now. But the way we approach illness and disease, I feel that we're waiting for a symptom, and then we go to the doctor expecting for them to give us a pill to make us better. And so all this fear factor of this whole thing that's going on. It's like, oh, panic, panic. And if I get it, then I've just got to go into hospital and they're going to fix me. So when we hear about, oh, you know, so-and-so, they died, but well, they didn't have any underlying, you know, they were fit and healthy. How do we know? How do we know what is actually going on the inside of our body? Because nobody really, you know, unless they're hit by a car, they're not going to die instantaneously. Their body has been gradually, there's something been going on. You know, disease is just a body that's not at ease. So something's been coming on, and then something is going to come in, and then their body's not going to be in the right position to fight it. So we don't know what's going on. And what I see from the physical, from my background in nutrition and following the keto, is metabolic syndrome, which basically you only got to look down. If there's weight around your middle, there's a certain amount of metabolic syndrome going on. And so there's so much with type 2 diabetes. People are becoming type 2 diabetic, but they're only finding out when they're at the end, when they really have got type 2 diabetes and they need medication to sort it out. But back here, you know, if they addressed it back there when the metabolic syndrome was starting and insulin resistance was going up, they could have reversed it. So everything we eat, you know, at the end of the day, we are what we eat, whether that's we eat through the body or whether what we feed the mind, it's all the same. And so, you know, at the end of the day, when they launched that Eat Out, you know, everyone was so happy that McDonald's, you know, should I say McDonald's? But fast food restaurants were opening. Like, go figure, you know, this isn't going to help our cellular health. It's going to cause inflammation in the body. So that if any kind of foreign invader, bacteria, virus is going to come in, our bodies aren't in a position to fight. My background is fasting. Now, I studied Dr. Shumi's research on autophagy. Now, he won the Nobel Prize. So this isn't, you know, alternative medicine that doesn't work. This is fact. He won the Nobel Prize for Physiology back in 2016 for his research on autophagy. Funnily enough, when autophagy is triggered, your body's recycling system will attack any foreign entity, okay, and will use it up. So fasting is a very natural way of fighting anything, whether it's cold, flu, bacterial infection, whatever. So what we can do for ourselves, I'm not trying to say that any of this is a cure for all, but for one, sunshine. I know it's winter for us here in the UK, but we need sunshine. So if we're not getting it, vitamin D3. I know the government have started to say things like this and advising it, but they're not advising enough. We need high dose vitamin D. We need high dose vitamin C. You need zinc. And then if you think you're coming down with a cold, quercetin. Quercetin taken together with zinc. The zinc pushes the quercetin into the cells. That's a little bit like quinine does, which when they were talking about the hydroxychloroquine and the sort of, but this is a natural product that has a sort of similar things that it's going to do. It pushes it into the cell for really two actions, I suppose. One, to reduce inflammation on a cellular level. And then number two, it's like it's creating an histamine. It's like an antihistamine, okay? Because this is the issue. Nobody dies of the virus. They die of the sort of immune response, really. So that would be my recommendation. I'm not saying that's a cure. I'm just saying, you know, if we want to put our body in the best position, and also omega-3, because omega-6 to 3 ratio, when that's out of balance, and people are getting omega-6 from fast foods, from processed foods. So if any people take anything from this, go back to eating naturally whole foods. The omega-6 to 3 ratio is essential. And even that, when that's out of balance, that creates cellular inflammation. So we're going to reduce cellular inflammation if we are bombarded with these things, and we introduce some fasting protocols. You don't have to do anything extreme, but maybe just a once a week an extended fast, because autophagy only gets triggered after 19 hours of fasting. For a lot of people in the beginning, they couldn't possibly skip breakfast. But there are ways you can do this. So a thing would be colds and flus like an acidic environment, right? The cheapest, quickest way to make your body alkaline is a very cheap product called bicarbonate of soda. 1 teaspoon in a glass of water on an empty stomach first thing in the morning, right? Just to put that out there, anybody on put it on heart medication, talk to your doctor first. But without any underlying issues, perfectly healthy, bicarbonate of soda is going to make your body alkaline. Again, all these things don't like an alkaline body. And in fact, that goes for pretty much any illness or ailment, really. So not long term, but especially, at the end of the day, my asthma is terrible at the moment. Guess what? It's cold. It's damp. Again, years ago, I was talking to my mum the other day, and she said her granddad, which I didn't know, her granddad died of bronchitis. Because guess what? We didn't have central heating. I think we've got short memories. Years ago, respiratory problems are rife in the winter. Okay. I lived in Portugal as well for years, and the winters are so damp. The air was damp, and I was terrible. I suffered terribly with my breathing. So from a personal point of view, because I do know quite a few people who are suffering at the moment. So, if they've got COVID, they are struggling to breathe. And if you've never had a respiratory problem, it's scary. And I get that. It's very scary if you're struggling to breathe. But ideally, you don't want to be lying down on your back, because guess what? If that response has been triggered, it's almost like your lungs are filling with fluid, the mucus. So I would have to prop myself up with lots of pillows and try and sleep upright, or just, not really exercising too much if you're getting out of breath, but moving around, just being sort of mobile. Other sort of tips, just breathing in Vicks in hot water with a towel over your head. Although, one piece of advice, do not watch the television at the same time, because when I was about 7, I flicked up the towel to watch telly and I spilt the whole bowl of boiling water and I scalded my foot. So be careful with with very, very hot water. But, there are so many things out there, but don't think you just got, you're going to get iller and iller and struggle to breathe until you have to go to the hospital. Prevention is better than cure. Prevention is better than cure. So you guys have brought a lot of insight, because yes, I do believe that it's not one or one fix suits all, But so our advice today, from my physical standpoint, get fresh air. You need to get sunlight, vitamin D3, vitamin C, zinc, quercetin, the main things. If you're starting to struggle, add bicarbonate into the mix. That's a physical aspect. So, Laurie, what would your solution be if anybody's struggling right now from the mental perspective?
Remember the power of the breath, and remember that anxiety begets anxiety. So if you are anxious, the best thing that you can do is to get yourself off that anxiety treadmill. And one of the ways to do it is to start to breathe, to start to activate that relaxed state, the parasympathetic nervous system, and then start, I encourage people to talk to themselves, ask themselves questions. What am I really frightened of? How many times have I been out and I've passed people who haven't been wearing a mask, and have I been ill because of it? No. So are my concerns really grounded and founded in something real, or am I just getting caught up in this fear-based narrative that's going around? And the final thing I would say is always trust yourself. And sometimes that's really hard, especially when there's a lot of misinformation around. You don't know where to turn. Turn within. That's the one place that people forget.
Oh, you're so right there. And the thing is, that's the one you should go and listen to. That's right.
Exactly. This is
forget what I've said, forget what Laurie said, forget what Karmic Psychic has said. Trust your inner voice.
Completely. And start to do it. Yeah.
Awesome. And so, Karmic.
I would say sit down with some nice music, soothing music, and do some breathing yoga. Do some yoga, put some candles on, have a bath in Himalayan bath salts to unleash those chakras of yours that maybe you're blocking. And like Laurie said, speak to yourself, because when you speak to yourself, you're listening, you're open to yourself. And maybe even if you don't want to speak to yourself, you should write things down and ask yourself, what will make you happy. And for this year, 2021, the motto for all should be that I am happy and I am free. And if your mind is positive, you will be positive, and your health will be positive.
Awesome. Oh, I totally agree. I mean, going back to the talking to yourself and asking yourself questions, what that also does is bring you into the present. And in the present, you haven't got any problems. Nothing can harm you. Right now, it's us worrying about what could possibly happen in the future, which is crazy because it hasn't happened yet. So again, we're creating stories about something that's very probably never gonna happen.
Oh, and also have friends like yourselves that if you ever feel alone, talk to someone.
Absolutely. Fantastic. And Laurie will have all, if you want to contact Laurie and if you want to contact Karmic Psychic, all their details will be put down here. So thank you guys for my show, A Coffee with Karen. Yeah, brilliant. What a start. Absolutely fantastic advice. And I really hope that some people who are listening, it might just put their minds at rest. There obviously we're not saying that there isn't a virus, there is something going on, there's lots going on, and it is winter. As I said, we're gonna suffer anyway. So, think about taking responsibility for your own health. And it starts here as well. So your mental health, your physical health, and your spiritual health. So guys, thank you very much. And I will see you next week, or you will hear us next week on A Coffee with Karen.
Welcome to the Coffee with Karen podcast, a weekly chat show discussing everything from holistic health to current affairs from a mental, physical, and spiritual perspective. Get your weekly cup of positivity with a sprinkling of woo-woo.